is a cheap aesthetic.
The queens are coming to CA and sell your whole tragic system.
Dissent is DUU.
of Flo York, The Undead Saga. Act 1, Rotten Apple. Chapter 1, The Rotten Apple. Oh, darling queens. It's always been a dreadful spectacle, hasn't it? The air itself is a viscous, sticky thing, a symphony of screeching tires, corrupted neon, and the frantic, desperate hum of digital desire. They call it the Rotten Apple Ray, which is just fabulous shade, because underneath all the augmented reality filters and shimmering advertising gloss, everything's a little bit deceased. It's precisely why it's the perfect backstage for our stars, the undead drag queens of queens, or UDQQ. Now look up, my dear. The spires of Flo York pierce the smog-streaked sky, shimmering with that volatile electric flow that holds the entire city together, a tacky, vibrant energy that shapes every dollar and every dismal architectural choice. But what's truly mesmerizing is the subtle decay beneath. The UDQQ aren't just rising, they're gliding in on a cloud of weaponized shame, casting the most unsettling, dramatic shadows you've ever seen. These four queens are not some clumsy street gang looking for a few more blocks of territory. No, they're the architectural apex of cognitive warfare, a perfectly composed, terrifying quartet of psychological destruction. Each one is a flawless pillar in their composition of pathos, logos, and ethos, intent on nothing less than the systemic disintegration of the established order. At the very, very top, draped in tattered velvet and skeletal glamour, is Slaybell, the lead queen. She's the ideological pillar, and with a mere flick of her wrist, honestly, her control is magnifique. She articulates the calculus of fealty. Her slay flow? A chillingly beautiful blend of weaponized shame and nihilistic apathy. It's the ultimate critique. She drains your core worth and converts your despair into her power. She is pursuing an existential perfection, darling. A purpose so high concept it makes petty territory squabbles look utterly whack. Then there's the gorgeous gothic planning of Skoogie Drottning, the Shade Queen, the Analytical Pillar. While Slaybell is busy with the philosophy, Skoogie is mapping the fault lines. She translates the aesthetic of vengeance into concrete, clinical strategies. Her shade flow isn't mere invisibility. It's a psychic X-ray, allowing her to see the fatal flaws in the enemy's design. She guarantees strategic clarity, leaving absolutely no room for that messy, unprofessional brute force. Enter Aisha Inferno, the slay flow queen, the whirlwind of the kinetic pillar. She is pure, glittering dissonance executed with high-impact, glorious aesthetic fidelity. Adorned in boundless, golden quantum chain flow E, she is immune to the corrupting toll that poisons lesser flow users. She's the UDQQ's force multiplier, a source of chaotic, unpredictable energy, the perfect, messy counterpoint to the Sonic Syndicate's sterile ordered beat. Her triple threat training, sass, shade, slay, ensures every physical move is merely the overture to a psychological collapse. And finally, my personal favorite, the Audit Queen, the curator of consensus, the administrative pillar. She is the immaculate, custom-tailored power suit in the ruined arcade. Her job is to make tyranny financially sensible. Her consensus flow is the symphony of rhetorical control, subtly reframing instability as a necessary inevitability. She sustains the entire gorgeous rebellion through the intricate web of the casket-dead economy, managing the capital, consensus, and compliance, so Slaybell can focus. Look, as a unified front, darling, these four possess a total strategic capability that simply humiliates their competition. Their complete rhetorical dominance means they can justify any cruelty with ruthless, cold logic. They minimize the corrupting toll, turning the enemy's fear into their power source. The UDQQ is truly the architectural apex of cognitive warfare. They have the vision, the intelligence, the chaos, and the cold governance to rewrite the entire psycho-socio-economic flow of Flo York. Now, that's a performance. It's a Flo York, The Undead Saga. Act 1, Rotten Apple. Chapter 2, Slaybell, The Calculus of Fealty. Oh, please. Slaybell didn't just orchestrate the takeover of Flo Queens. She performed a masterful, necessary redemption of this rotten apple. She brought purpose, which, let's be honest, is just beautifully packaged vengeance. The view from her throne in the ruins of the Royal Arcade is sublime. The sickly, unnatural neon flickers casting a low-humming, constant tribute to her superior vision. It's not decay, darling. It's a perfectly ordered space. Now watch this sad little creature approach. It's her supplicant, a ghoul named Crumbs, and he absolutely reeks of frantic, misplaced action. He moves through the smoky, shimmering air, reeking of guilt and desperation, while the low thrum of the slave flow provides a constant, monotonous reassurance that nothing matters. Slay Bell allows her controlled drawl to take over. It's a deliberate slowness that forces the frantic world to bend to her tempo. You arrive in haste, reeking of crumbs and misplaced action, she purrs, letting the syllables hang heavy and cold. Observe your own shadow. It moves faster than your will. Your failure is not one of effort, but of athal. Did you truly believe your frantic little hustle could breach the concrete veil I laid down eons ago? No? The ledger shows an indictment. You have incurred a tax, and it is due. Crumbs collapses to his knees, his fear a delicious coppery tang in the air, the smell of freshly spilled, utterly wasted guilt. He's an outsider, lacking the foundation flow for genuine pressure, which is precisely why he was allowed into the glamour army. The UDQQ only demands a terrifying purpose and a refusal to be normal. He attempts to negotiate his punishment, which is always so predictable. Your Grace, the breach was an error of calculation. The enemy found a weakness, a simple, mortal flaw. I beg you, do not assess the full tax. Give me time to repay the casket debt with action, not spirit. Slay Bell shuts down his emotional flailing with a single, slow breath, barely moving the magnificent skeletal tiara perched on her head. Time is a jest whispered by the soon-to-be dead. I paid my dues with the still flesh long ago. Your action is merely the twitch of a puppet on a string, a flicker of light before the velvet shroud closes. You dare to front the calculus of fealty with your feelings? Every word you speak only adds to your interest, little knave. You mistake life's frantic tempo for power. Ah, there's the beautiful sound, the faint personalized whisper of mocking laughter. That's the work of Skoogie Drotning, the Shade Queen, gliding silently in the background, her tattered dress trailing shimmering dark energy. Her power is parasitic, feeding the shadow current and sustaining their fabulous destructive essence. Slay Bell looks down. Crumb's core purpose, his fragile little ego, is now the only thing left to take. It's time to enforce their total control over the flow of this district. You want the command? It is this. You shall go, and you shall offer your final panicked breath as the very seal to mend the breach. The concrete juju demands that only life's cessation can enforce eternity. Therefore, pay the casket debt with your adal, and become the threshold they can never cross. You are not a solution. You are the permanent lock, forevermore. Crumb staggers to his feet, eyes shattered by existential doubt. He is now a tool for narrative effigy, his body a weaponized statement on the failure of hope. A perfectly disposable pawn, and his sacrifice will solidify the UDQQ's turf as the deadliest, most fabulous force in Flow York. The slave flow pulses, and Slay Bell knows she is right. There is no point, except the perfection of control of Flow York, the Undead Saga. Act 1, Rotten Apple, Chapter 3, Skoogie Drotning, the aesthetics of vengeance. Darling, the air atop the Queen's watchtower, a rusted, sickly broadcast mast, was carrying nothing but the faintest, most distorted disco music. It was a sound as tired as the structure itself. Here stood Skoogie Drotning, the Shade Queen, draped in a magnificent cloak of swirling gloom, her superior night vision finding no beauty in the surrounding vulgar neon. She was a sentinel of judgment, resting her enormous ancestral axe against the railing, the ancient iron a cold chic contrast to her decaying yet perfectly contoured flesh. Her gaze, which wasn't of sight but of shade flow, was locked onto the messy, shifting psychic patterns of Flow York. She is the UDQQ's gorgeous, unforgiving mind, dedicated to the ruthless aesthetics of vengeance, a commitment born from a desire to finally, elegantly end the cycles of pain she knew as a mortal. Then, a measured footfall, too graceful for a ghoul, too heavy for a regular civilian, announced Slay Bell, gliding to the edge of the roof, her skeletal tiara catching the dim light. My esteemed queen, Skoogie began, turning to the majestic figure. Her voice, though low, carried the theatrical weight of a controlled drawl. I have watched your composition, and I must confess, it is a miserable failure of Chiaro. Far too much frantic light, not enough purposeful shade. You speak of effort when I can only smell a desperate, tacky hustle. Slay Bell smiled, a theatrical, withering gesture that was all bone and disdain. Must you always start with the critique, Scoogie? I sent you to observe the flow of the blog goal, not the state of my lipstick. Scoogie tilted her head, letting her deep marrow drawl patois take over. My purpose, Monarch, is to ensure the design is sound. Your aesthetic is not measured by its cost, but by its consequence. Tell me, what base conceit led you to believe such a cheap performance could settle a casket debt owed to my still flesh? The casket debt is paid when the world recognizes our undisputed superiority, Slaybell countered, her eyes gleaming with delicious, malevolent energy. Now, give me the report. I want the gossip on our defenses, our acquisitions, and the predictable failures of our rivals. Scoogie gestured toward the distant, hazy border of Flow Queens. The fortifications are sufficient. Our new army, the Glamour Army, Drag Ghouls, have completely assimilated the Discord Pillar's principles, ensuring their loyalty is rooted in shared resentment and a deep desire for vengeance against the normal. Our recent arms acquisition, however, is a trifling gesture, a volume of flow-resistant combat fatigues, which frankly lack the necessary style to be truly intimidating. The rival, Scoogie? The enemies to the composition? The network is stable, and the etheric current provides a perfectly clear signal, Your Grace. Scoogie's tone became clinical, blending her analytical role with her theatrical judgment. First, the Unchained Melody in Brooklyn. Their flow is a chaotic, vibrant mix of defiance. They are neutral defiant, hiding behind the Chaos Pillar as their shield. Their resilience is high. They refuse your rhythm, but they are too busy fighting their own righteous fight to bother with us. And the Sonic Syndicate of Manhattan? They are conflict rigid. She spat the words out. The Queen of Flow's rhythm is a suffocating, mechanical pulse. They are conflict diametric to our gorgeous dissonance. Their problem, darling, is a tragic lack of sprezzatura. They are far too efficient, far too predictable. They will come for us when they have perfected their order, but their obsession is always, always order. The others, then, the Dark Currents, the lynch mob gang on Rikers Island. They are conflict aesthetic. They are necromancers, yes, but their undead army is an unsightly composition that offends the very nature of true decay. Their technology is vulgar, not elegant. Our shade flow is their counterpoint. They fear psychological collapse more than death. They are a long-term threat to our control over the flow, but not an immediate one. Scoogie paused, her eyes narrowing as she mentally mapped Long Island. And then there is the Top Hat Gang. They are the most insidious, neutral perfectionist. Their gilded cage flow is a psychic blast of pure, crippling disappointment. It attempts to devalue every single concept we embody: glamour, menace, and purpose. Their goal is the suppression of discord. This is an enemy that actually understands psychological warfare, making them the most interesting. But currently, they are preoccupied with maintaining their creepy perfection on Long Island. Slaybell tapped her tiara. What of the neo-Gothic Roman gang? The Cardinal sees us as an affront. They are conflict ideological. Their divine right flow attempts to compel obedience through undeniable truth. It is an unsettled psychic compulsion, and we are their perfect abomination. They are currently static, locked in their magnificent fortress and completely preoccupied with bureaucracy, the endless paperwork of their chrono. Their vulnerability is their adherence to outdated methodologies. They are simply too slow to pose a proper threat. And our personal goal, Scoogie? The purpose of this UDQQ? Beyond mere fabulous cruelty? Scoogie tightened her grip on the axe, her voice dropping to a theatrical whisper. The Aval you seek is not of wealth, but of vengeance. We are here to dismantle the systems that create the vulnerable. Every act of shade we throw, every slave flow we unleash is the destruction of an obstacle that permits the innocent to suffer. We are the architects of perpetual agony for the sexist, the criminal, and the cruel. That, Your Grace, is the composition I accept. Slaybell nodded, finally satisfied. Well then, your composition requires a dramatic exit, doesn't it? Now go anon. Secure the new knowledge from that derelict library we scoped out last night. Let the enemy read your movement as a final, beautiful, and effortless lie. The UDQQ only takes on outsiders with a purpose, and yours is delicious. Scoogie Drottning's form shimmered, the shadow current absorbing the surrounding light until her sleek movements were no more than a ghostly pallor in the fading neon. She moved not with frantic haste, but with the elegant precision of a true predator. leaving the Queen's watchtower cloaked in the shadows of the city. Do you want to continue with Chapter 4, where the fabulous Aisha Inferno unleashes her calculus of choreography? Of Flo York, The Undead Saga. Act 1, Rotten Apple. Chapter 4, Aisha Inferno. The calculus of choreography and the sleigh bell. Oh, you simply must adore Aisha Inferno. She doesn't just train the glamour army, she refines their dissonance. Lesser gangs rely on brute force. Such a tired, predictable song. But we are conducting a magnificent symphony of psychological collapse. Her purpose is simple, stark, and utterly elegant. To embody the perfect, fatal choreography of warfare. They call her the demonic drag queen harlequin of violence, and darling, they aren't wrong. Her power is simply boundless. It flows from the glittering golden quantum chains that adorn her, which were of course stolen straight from the Flow God's boudoir in the quantum realm. These aren't just jewelry, they're an unlimited energy source, ensuring she is immune to the messy corrupting toll that poisons the others. She can pull on any flow, any magic, any chaotic energy without cost. It's truly magnifique. The Royal Arcade is a dreadful place today, filled with the awkward clatter of new recruits trying to find their footing. Aisha glides through the crowd, letting the hex rhyme patois roll out, forcing the stale air to vibrate with her intense, chaotic intent. Well, look who fell out of the shadow current and landed whack. You're nothing but dissonance. A terrible setback. Your little stance is showing it's totally on the fritz. I smell a composition's flaw that gives me the H. A terrified new recruit. An outsider, bless her cotton soul, stumbles back, startled by the rhyme. She's supposed to be practicing the shade flow, making a rival envision her deepest insecurity, but she's using clumsy, physical attacks instead. Oof. Such a base conceit. Aisha slows her pace, letting the delicious controlled drawl take over. She must teach the poor dear that the physical world is secondary. The real fight is in the head. Protocol. Oof. Such a base conceit. You think a punch can silence the screaming inside? She asks, her voice dripping contempt. Darling, your attack is a trifling gesture, a cheap curtain trying to hide the theater's ruin. Where is your dignitas? You look like a frightened schmuck in a borrowed costume. She raises her chains, and a ribbon of pure slave flow, nihilistic apathy itself, leaps from the gold and wraps around the recruit. Her eyes glaze over with a beautiful, profound lack of care. My training is not about survival. It's about the aesthetics of vengeance, Aisha announces to the assembled ghouls. You need to learn the triple threat, sass flow to invert their rage, shade flow to amplify their doubt, and slave flow to drain their will. We don't need bodies to defeat. We need the will flow shield to shatter. Slaybell smiles, her eyes gleaming with delicious, malevolent energy. Chaos is cheap. Avo is expensive. Your plan, Diva, has merit. Now, tell me the final, necessary cost of this mayhem. Aisha shifts back to the rhyme, the final ultimatum ready. She is the undead jester of mayhem, and she demands a glorious show. Oh, sweetie, you think a simple tax can pay for my art? The only way to pay the casket debt is to rip out the enemy's heart. I demand we launch a psychic blast to destroy the concrete juju's hold. Go make a mess, my monarch, and make this story magnificently told. Word up. Go make the chaos your final stunning piece of art. Of Flo York, The Undead Saga. Act 1, Rotten Apple. Chapter 5, The Audit Queen. The Impartial Process. The crumbling arcade reeked, as always, of ozone, decaying flesh, and a truly fiscally irresponsible disregard for the building's maintenance. That scent was a private, low-grade irritant to the Audit Queen, who stood before Slaybell's throne. She was a figure of rigid, immaculate control against a backdrop of pure, messy theatrical decay. She wore a custom-tailored power suit, its lines sharp enough to cut a ledger, a deliberate, stark contrast to the skeletal tiara and the dreadful melodrama. The Audit Queen is the UDQQ's Minister of Stabilization darling, her entire power rooted in consensus flow, the subtle, rhetorical manipulation of trust and capital. Slaybell defines the existential goal. The Audit Queen ensures the rebellion is solvent. Slaybell gestured with a perfectly manicured, decaying hand. Speak to me, curator. I tire of the constant, frantic noise of the city. Tell me that your logos is in order, and that our inevitable rule is not merely a fantasy of the shadow current. The The Audit Queen consulted the glowing data slate in her hand, her voice a slow, calm cascade of legalese patois that instantly reduced the surrounding melodrama to manageable figures. Her delivery was a controlled drawl, entirely devoid of emotional flourish. Your Grace, the balance sheet is in concord. Her tone was the cold, hard certainty of numbers. Our internal economy, based on the casket debt, remains stable and non-fungible. The necessary tax on our citizens, though viewed as an unpleasant inevitability, is in compliance. We are fully funded and immune to both economic collapse and energy depletion. We possess a perpetual sustained advantage. Slaybell leaned forward, her slave flow pulsing a dull, apathetic light. And the cost of this aesthetic of vengeance? My kinetic operations are inherently volatile, darling. Correct. The actions of Skoogie Drottning are recorded as high-cost kinetic operations that risk significant political exposure. However, the operations are currently justified as a necessary strategic investment. By proactively exploiting systemic vulnerabilities, Skoogie generates actionable intelligence that minimizes subsequent skirmish costs, leading to high-efficiency conflict. I have classified her current mission against the Top Hat Gang as a financial countermeasure. The Audit Queen then moved to the diplomatic front, the true fascinating expression of her ethos. In terms of external factional relations, my department has secured a viable stasis agreement. The Unchained Melody is categorized as a primary ally, providing the kinetic force to counter the mayor's sonic grid. We maintain a non-aggression pact with the Jump Flow Pirates for resource vector access, and have successfully managed arbitration with the messy elemental forces in Yonkers. What of the Manhattan antagonist Prime? Slaybell asked, her voice dangerously quiet. The Queen of Flow views us as an unacceptable noise. The Audit Queen did not even glance toward Manhattan. She looked only at her data slate, pose an ideological threat, but her focus is on totalitarian order and suppression of dissent. Due to our rhetorical dominance and my ongoing work creating a veneer of official denial, she has yet to make us a current priority. We are a severe but theoretical liability. The Audit Queen finally addressed the moral landscape of the conflict, demonstrating how her flow reframed the UDQQ's fabulous cruelty into a cold, rational necessity. Finally, the empathy web weavers, the philosophical threat, continue to promote emotional dependency. This requires our shade flow to function as a necessary corrective. We are not cruel. We are performing a systemic disintegration. Our actions are the unappealing but inevitable governance that exposes the comfortable lies for the structural deficiency they are. Instability, Your Grace, is simply fiscally irresponsible. So your calculus of chaos is sound? Slaybell concluded. The doctrine of sustainability is fully implemented, the Audit Queen stated, closing her data slate with a sharp final click. The UDQQ is not merely fighting for a city, Your Grace. We are rewriting the psychosocioeconomic flow of Flow York. The end game is a certainty, supported by the numbers. She turned her immaculate suit a final statement of purpose. She is the cold, brilliant administrator who guarantees the rebellion's long-term survival, keeping the balance sheet clean until the final, fabulous act. The Audit Queen's cold, impeccable logic is such a refreshing contrast to the drama, isn't it? Gangs of Flow York, The Undead Saga. Act 1, Rotten Apple, Chapter 6, Sage, The Inevitability of Escalation. Oh, darlings, are you ready for the tea? Because the crumbling arcade is absolutely humming with fresh new drama. The arrival of the Audit Queen didn't bring sequins or shock, but it brought something far more terrifying. A chilling, unassailable order to the UDQQ's glorious chaos. She's turned their rebellion into a viable, long-term enterprise. And now that all the pieces are finally on the board, the show is ready to begin. The ultimate betrayal, spilling the Alliance tea. It was, of course, absolutely inevitable. The Queen of Flow, that fastidious, rhythm-obsessed tyrant in Manhattan, cannot abide dissonance. The constant theatrical menace of the Undead Drag Queens, a gang that literally weaponizes shame, is an existential threat to her totalitarian need for silence and order. It's an issue of taste, darling. And Slaybell has absolutely none. So what did she do? She called in the biggest, scariest gun she could find. The Queen of Flow has entered into an active alliance with the Legion. This isn't a social call, sweetie. This is a strategic escalation that rewrites the flow of the entire city. The Legion moves in. Think of the Legion as the ultimate fabulous cleanup crew. They are the covert observer, the looming authority in the midtown sublevels. Their surgical order flow views the queens and all other rebels as contamination. They possess devastating anti-flow tech. Their presence means the fight is no longer about territory or shame, it's about surgical control and total extinction. A tragic little plot twist. The new enforcement this alliance means the Sonic Syndicate's Centurion Corps now coordinates with the Legion's surgical enforcement. These aren't your grandfather's rent-a-cops. These are more strict forces, cops who move with a cold, analytical focus. They'll be deployed with advanced flow dampeners and disruptor tech, prioritizing silence and system stability over anything as inconvenient as justice. For the UDQQ, this means the era of easy infiltration is over, as Skuyy-Drottning's strategic maneuvers now face a highly efficient, silent counterforce. The city's vibe check who's still serving. The rest of the city is currently a symphony of escalating conflicts and opportunistic trade, all being meticulously tracked by the Audit Queen's genius open source intelligence, OSINT. The Unchained Melody, Brooklyn. Still our primary ally and still serving kinetic force realness. Their chaotic, defiant hip-hop flow is the only thing providing the energy needed to counter the mayor's sonic grid. They remain a necessary, beautifully noisy distraction that keeps the main antagonist utterly busy. The Top Hat Gang, Long Island. Such a strategic threat, the Audit Queen views their insidious economic manipulation as a challenge to her own consensus flow. They continue to use their social capital flow to crush self-worth, and their gilded cage flow to maintain their terrifying, polished, creepy perfection. They are so ripe for a psychological breakdown, darling. The neo-Gothic Roman gang, still stuck in their magnificent but utterly static fortress. Their divine right flow is immense, yet their adherence to outdated methodologies and endless paperwork make them too slow to be a factor in this new escalation. Bless their hearts. The Junk Flow Pirates, Resource Vector, the Audit Queen, has secured a working relationship with them. They remain our Resource Vector, Pete, providing access to illegal flow tech and supplies outside the heavily monitored official grid. A necessary evil for a sustained, fabulous rebellion. The stage is set, my dears. The Audit Queen has calculated the odds, Slay Bell has delivered the ultimate philosophical mandate, and now the Legion is coming. The calculus of choreography just got infinitely more difficult. And I, the Echo of Ages, am here for every delicious, tragic, and utterly fabulous moment of it. This is going to be good. Should we dive into the next chapter, where the battle lines truly get drawn, and the UDQQ prepares for Act 2, the logic of extinction? The Flow York, the Undead Saga. Act 1, Rotten Apple. Chapter 7, the Calculus of Cohesion. Oh, darlings, are you ready for this diplomatic nightmare? We're talking high-stakes negotiation, where the Audit Queen's immaculate power suit is standing precisely 10 feet from a creature whose very existence is a defiant baseline. The Brooklyn Industrial Zone is a monument to magnificent decay, reeking of wet concrete, stagnant oil, and the defiant, percussive energy of the Unchained Melody flow. Slay Bell and the Audit Queen have finally arrived to meet Tempo, the fierce leader, and Helena, the silent, perfectly poised marksman, whose elemental bullet manipulation is legendary. The dramatic arrival is over. Now comes the cold, hard bargaining. Tempo, ever so direct, doesn't waste time on pleasantries. Y'all got here slow, like my unemployment check on a Friday. The Mayor's Sonic Syndicate done, linked with the Legion. That ain't a threat. That's an existential problem. My people on Rikers are a strategic target, and yours are about to be contamination. So let's skip the small talk. What's your price for getting my fam out of the silent disco? The Audit Queen, bless her fiscally responsible heart, consults her data slate, ignoring the flare. We appreciate the strategic clarity. The Legion's surgical order flow requires a mitigation strategy. The UDQQ offers a contingency contract. You seek the extraction of non-fungible assets, your people, from the Rikers Rehabilitation Center. We require kinetic support to enforce the necessary disintegration of the Manhattan Legion Alliance. Then Slay Bell steps forward, letting her controlled drawl wrap around the room like expensive silk. You mistake this for a hostile negotiation, darling. It's a calculus of cohesion. Every great system is built on a shared wound. Tell me, Tempo, what does it feel like to watch your flow, your defiant, chaotic hip-hop flow, get turned into unacceptable noise by the mayor? You fight for defiance and chaos. That kind of loyalty to a flawed ideal. That's beautiful. It's almost worth saving. Tempo, being no fool, focuses back on the numbers. Save your pathos for the stage, led Queen. We fight for who we are, yes, but we accept the fatalistic acceptance of the flow. When you fight the lynch mob gang, you need rage. My people ain't got the will flow shield for that anymore. Oni brought the lynch hung's undead flow necromancy is mind control, turning our kin into unkillable puppets. What assurance do we have your shade flow can crack their programming? The audit queen deals only in ethos, not sentiment. Our flow composition is psychological destruction. Theirs is simple physical reanimation. The lynch mob strategy is strategic target elimination and enslavement. We will utilize the slave flow, the nihilistic apathy, to drain the manufactured will from the resurrected subjects, rendering them compliant and inert. It's a low-cost kinetic operation that targets the mental rigidity of the enemy's control. Sleigh Bell glides closer, letting the dramatic pause hang heavy. But the true transaction tempo is not bodies for bullets. It's Athol for Athol. We, the UDQQ, are built on pain. Skoogie Drottning is driven by vengeance against systemic injustice. Aisha Inferno is pure, gorgeous chaos. And I am the perfection of control. We see the lyric canon prime's order, and we see the source of perpetual agony it creates. You are the rebel heart of this city. You must trust our intent because we are fighting the same thing, the suppression of discord. Tempo's eyes flick to Helena, then back to Sleigh Bell, her tone shifting to a heavy final resignation. The Audit Queen's logic is sound. We will take the deal, but understand, when we fight the Legion and the Sonic Syndicate, the Unchained Melody fights action comics / beat 'em up style. We bring raw, kinetic force. We bring the kind of bass that rattles you apart. You bring your psychological shade. The Audit Queen extends her hand, a firm, non-negotiable gesture. Then the consensus flow is achieved. The Unchained Melody provides kinetic verse flow and strategic disruption against flow dampeners on the Brooklyn-Manhattan Bridge. The Audit Queen provides immediate mobilization for extraction from Rikers Island. Sleigh Bell looks out at Manhattan. Word up. Now, let us go ruin the mayor's composition. You may proceed to phase 1. Active dissonance deployment. Tempo nods, turning away. Let's get these Sonic Syndicate drones to trip over their own rhythm. Helena remains silent, touching the urban empathy patch on her shoulder, confirming her readiness. The Audit Queen confirms to Sleigh Bell, the contract is sealed. I have flagged the extraction as a high priority asset recovery. The perpetual sustained advantage is secured. I told you this was going to be a show, and alliances are like cheap makeup. They look great until the inevitable sweat of battle makes them run. The Queen of Flow brought the law with the Legion. Now Sleigh Bell brings the noise. And the first stop on this glamorous revenge tour? Rikers Island, home to Brother Lynch's ghastly, tragically unstylish lynch mob gang. You'd think a bunch of necromancers would have a better aesthetic, but no, just dusty old decay. It's an insult to the undead drag queens of queens, but they hold the Unchained Melodies family. So the UDQQ does what they do best, turn a rescue mission into a dazzling high-stakes drag show. This isn't just a battle, it's a gothic fashion statement against the tyranny of bad taste. Let's meet the new psychological weaponry in the spotlight. The alliance is sealed. Are you ready for Chapter 8, where Aisha Inferno introduces the new recruits and finalizes the battle plan?
Yeah.
The Flo York, The Undead Saga. Act 1, Rotten Apple. Chapter 8, The Calculus of the Costume Change. Oh, darlings, the tea is scalding hot and it's time to meet the new faces. Aisha Inferno is conducting her masterclass in psychological devastation, and she's brought in 3 fresh little tragedies to refine. This isn't just a training session in the crumbling Royal Arcade. It's a terrifying audition for the new aesthetics of vengeance. The air is thick with ozone, ambition, and the faint sweet smell of rotting gardenias. Aisha's signature scent. Scene 1. The new recruits. Psychological armaments. Aisha, welcome to the Flow Banshee. You first. Tell the Queen's trainer how your gifts manifest, what drives you, and the poison you carry that fuels your fire. Alara, Banshee. My gift is the screaming wind, a concussive sound that shatters the minds of mortals. It physically feels like a migraine turning into glass shrapnel. I use the fungal necromancy flow to command the corrupted wood. The wood is always weeping. This power is the physical manifestation of the demonic entity within, and my drive is its unending hunger. My deepest fear is that the demon will consume all the light in the world, leaving me in total, eternal silence. Aisha O Divine. A built-in trauma soundtrack. The self-loathing is exquisite. Next, Diggy Graves. You look like a bad week wrapped in a hoodie, all shadows and nihilism. Speak your truth, darling. Diggy, I am the Reaper of Sorrow, a nihilistic sonic driven by the pure, cold contempt I hold for the 9-to-5 suicide that society calls life. My graveshifter flow is a void echo sonic. When I rap, the world feels like it's crumbling into dust, and I summon shadow-like entities from the nothingness. I want to corrupt and destroy the system that created me. My gift is fueled by my pathological need to prove that life is nothing more than a tragic, self-aware joke. He always wears gloves, by the way. He says his touch accelerates decay. Aisha, such a beautiful mess. And finally, Pumpkin Queen. Look at you, all gruesome and gorgeous, like a beautiful nightmare you can't wake up from. What makes you the ultimate psychological weapon? Pumpkin spice. I'm the nihilistic diva flow, the sleep paralysis made real, a synthesis of sass, shade, and slay. My sass flow reflects a target's anger right back at them, making their rage feel pathetic and weak. I am driven by the deep desire to dominate and consume others, psychologically, not just physically. I don't need a costume because I'm already a freak, and the only thing I fear is the day I lose the power to make others bend to my will. She's also immune to psychic projection, because her self-worth is already perfect. Aisha, perfection. Now, let's turn this terrifying beauty into a viable attack plan. Scene 2. The War Room. Humorous threat and planning. The silent disco, our main war room, is glowing faintly, the holographic map pulsing with the rival gang's psychic flows. Skoogie Drottning is here, looking like a magnificent, impatient goddess. Skoogie Drottning, darlings, let's talk real estate. Specifically, a concrete hellhole called Rikers. And darling, we simply must make an entrance that slays. Audit. What are the logistical sins of this plan? Audit. The operation is a high-priority asset recovery with a medium-high liability profile. Brother Lynch's gang is a conflict aesthetic threat. They utilize necromancy, but their methods are unsightly and vulgar, lacking the elegance of true decay. Their reliance on mind control constructs is a systemic vulnerability. Tempo. They ain't just puppets, they're my family. Oni brought the Lynch's undead flow necromancy is controlling them, making them attack us. We need a promise that the plan doesn't end in mass casualties. I will not trade one kind of lynch mob for another. Skoogie Drottning, please, tempo. We're not savages. We specialize in psychological refinement. We shall make this a gothic Halloween feast of fear. Phase 1. Psychic decontamination will begin with Banshee, who will unleash the screaming wind to shatter the physical barriers and, more importantly, overload the lynch mob's crude reanimation signals. Audit. The Banshee's flow is categorized as a necessary structural interference. The concussion will create an extraction window and neutralize the enemy's signal dominance at low fiscal cost. Tempo. That's a noise complaint, not a war plan. What about the ground they fight on? Skoogie Drottning. Then we execute Phase 2, environmental corruption. Diggy Graves will use his graveshifter flow to twist the earth around the facility, rendering the ground hollow and impassable for their constructs. This silences external support and forces the enemy to fight on our terms. Audit. Correct. This constitutes a preemptive containment grid, securing the battlefield perimeter and mitigating the risk of unforeseen escape vectors. Skoogie Drottning. And the grand finale, darling. We send in the Slay Diva, Pumpkin Queen herself. She will unleash the nihilistic diva flow right on Brotha Lynch. She'll turn his anger, the very emotion that fuels his magic, into a total, paralyzing apathy. The lynch mob is officially canceled. Tempo. If Pumpkin can really drain their will, that clears the path to the cages. But the guards, the non-flow security force, they're armed. Audit. Phase 3, logistical nullification. The audit queen will engage the on-site security guards. I will use consensus flow to project a holographic ledger, convincing the guards that their participation is a fiscally irresponsible exchange of services and a violation of the non-aggression protocol. Tempo finally gives a slow nod, the weight lifting from her shoulders. If this psycho choreography frees my people, then consider the Unchained Melody your kinetic force for the Manhattan War. Let's go give those dusty ghouls a very bad, stylish day. Skoogie Drottning, agreed. Let's make this rescue look like a murderous fashion spread. Onibratha Lynch has no idea the level of aesthetic judgment he's about to face. Oh my dears, the tea is brewing. The Audit Queen is making financial ruin look chic, and the new recruits are ready to unleash their trauma. Next up, Chapter 9, The Overture of Trauma, where the UDQQ turns Rikers Island into a psychological mess. Are you ready for the infiltration? Gangs of Flow York, The Undead Saga. Act 1, Rotten Apple. Chapter 9, The Overture of Trauma. Phase 1, Psychic Decontamination. Oh my darlings, the house lights are dimmed and the curtain is finally going up on Rikers Island. I told you this was going to be delicious, and didn't the UDQQ deliver? The infiltration team is moving along the concrete perimeter, and the air is thick with the scent of brine, ozone, and the sickeningly sweet, necrotic decay of Onibratha Lynch's tacky presence. It's midnight, zero visibility, which is just chef's kiss for a stealth mission. The fiscal freeze, the spicy tea of governance. First up, the always unflappable Audit Queen. She glided toward the nearest security booth, not with stealth, but with the arrogant confidence of a sovereign arriving to collect overdue taxes, which is spicy tea if I've ever tasted it. She holds a glowing holographic ledger aloft, which frankly looks far more menacing than any axe. Audit Queen, controlled drawl. This is not a kinetic threat, it is a stabilization protocol. Your current involvement in this lynch mob action represents an unacceptable liability profile. Your Oni metal perimeter traps, though aesthetically pleasing in their crudeness, are currently budgeted at a $45,000 hourly operational cost, with a projected 100% loss of pension eligibility upon engagement with our forces. The non-aggression protocol is now in effect. Compliance is the only fiscally responsible path forward. Honestly, darling, getting paid to be fiscally sound while causing chaos? That's my kind of efficiency. The guards are immediately paralyzed. Not by fear of death, but by the sudden, overwhelming, undeniable truth of their economic ruin. Spicy tea. They lower their weapons, their eyes fixed on the collapsing financial figures. Logistical nullification. The external perimeter is secured. The earthly breakdown. The spicy tea of nihilism. Further down the wall, Diggy Graves drops to his knees, his eyes reflecting the vast, beautiful void he contains. He doesn't dig, he unmakes the ground. A low rhythmic chant, his void echo sonic, begins to pulse, literally pulling the natural order out of the earth. Diggy Graves, rhythmic, scornful. This ground is a joke. This concrete is a lie. Corrupted geomancy demands silence. Oh, the drama. The ground itself is having a mental breakdown. The graveshifter flow turns the concrete from a physical barrier into a metaphor for despair. Crack spiderweb outward, a beautiful network of decay that is instantly accelerated by erosion's arrival. Erosion, still low. Decay flow is the honest truth of the foundation. Their nanite-infused environment relies on structural integrity. I am the inevitability of rot. Erosion's power accelerates the corrosion of the Oni metal components within the concrete, making the lynch mob's reanimation platform unstable. Tacky design loses to elegant rot every single time. The shrieking finale, the spicy tea of trauma. Finally, from the top of the wall, Alara, Banshee, draws a breath that sounds like grinding teeth on glass. Her eyes glow with the frantic, captured energy of the demonic entity she contains. Alara, a shriek that was pure, overwhelming trauma. Ah, the screaming wind concussion is not just sound. It is the psychic equivalent of a digital virus, a cacophony that completely overloads the lynch mob's crude reanimation signals. The necromancy hum that ran through the walls shatters into static. The facility, sealed by the Audit Queen's numbers on one side and spiritually pulverized on the other, is now completely isolated. And here's the kicker. The ground surrounding the main entrance ruptures. Diggy Graves successfully warped the earth into an impassable pit of corrupted geomancy, sealing the main gate with a statement. The entire perimeter is locked down, and the enemy's escape routes are negated. The breach is open for the kinetic team. Ah, the delightful crunch of a well-laid plan hitting the grimy reality of a maximum security prison. Phase 2, tactical containment is up next, where programmed regenerating order always loses to the Flow York, the Undead Saga. Act 1, Rotten Apple. Chapter 10, The Logic of Mayhem. Oh, darlings, the tea is absolutely spicy now. Phase 2, tactical containment is in full swing, and the lynch mob is finding out that their unsightly aesthetic can't stand up to true chaotic glamour. The air in these corridors is thick with the metallic tang of fear and stale brine, and the sickly red glow of the Oni sigils pulses like a cheap club light. The kinetic onslaught, the spicy tea of conflict, Samson and Dragon of the Unchained Melody charged the first wave. The sound of Oni metal screaming under pressure was deafening. The corridors warped from the sheer kinetic force, and the floor hissed as the corrosive flow rained down. A dreadful wet acid. Samson anchored the line, his massive frame pulsing as his Mandingo-style flow absorbed the kinetic impact. You could practically smell the chemical burn stinging his skin, but he didn't even twitch. He simply refuses to be moved, which is fabulous structural integrity, darling. Dragon met the first regenerating warrior with a clean strike, a move of total nihilistic destruction. The nanites that usually help the undead reform found nothing left to build on. It was a total, irreversible collapse of maintenance funds. Then, Aisha Inferno chimed in, perfectly positioned on a pile of rubble. Aisha, hex rhyme patois. Look who's back, still wearing that tragic shade. Your pathetic formations are already frayed. I smell a composition's flaw, you just can't quit. Oni metal, your maintenance costs give me the H. The battle was a glorious mess. Low. His living dead resilience meant he had all the time in the world because he only cared about destroying the flow source, not avoiding mere injury. Tempo saw the main enemy formation tighten. Ah, a containment strategy. So predictable. She stomped the ground, unleashing her Windweaver flow. A deafening sonic assault. The air itself became a physical weapon, ripping through the narrow corridor. The necromancy formations shattered like cheap glass. The orderly panic, the spicy tea of defeat. Oni Country, one of the lynch mob's commanders, appeared from the shadows, suddenly realizing the containment was failing. The necromancer quickly summoned spectral cowboys. Spectral cowboys, darling. Such a dreadful aesthetic choice. Who charged on phantom steeds, attempting to herd the chaos back into some sort of order. Helena saw the attempt at order and, with magnificent disdain, fired. 1, 2, 3 shots. Each bullet shimmered with an elemental mix of ice and fire, leaving streaks of vapor in the humid air. She wasn't aiming for the horses or the cowboys. She was aiming for the flow signature driving Oni Country's command. The spectral forms dissolved into a confusing, shimmering mist. Instant cancellation. Aisha, your cowboys are melting, darling. Such a sticky mess. Your will to live is falling. What a fabulous stress. Tempo. The rhythm is broken. Chaos catalyst is through. The kinetic containment failed completely. Samson and Dragon pushed through the now inert forms of Oni Metal's destroyed minions, heading straight for the central detention chamber. The lynch mob's attrition strategy was officially broken. The UDQQ, Q/Unchained Melody unit had irreversible momentum. And that, my dears, is how you ruin a tragic little drama with a magnificent high-energy beat drop. The floor is cleared. Now we head straight into Chapter 11, the non-fungible assets, where Pumpkin Queen gives Oni Brotha Lynch Hung the ultimate psychological critique. Ready for the grand finale of Act 1? Gangs of Flow York, the Undead Saga. Act 1, Rotten Apple, Chapter 11, the non-fungible assets. Oh my goddesses, darlings, the tea is now a rolling, boiling geyser of absolute, unadulterated, spicy triumph. The logic of mayhem has cleared the kinetic stage, and we've finally arrived at the magnificent, ideological core of this prison break. Oni Brotha Lynch Hung is waiting in his command chamber, surrounded by pulsing, utterly tacky red Oni sigil lights. I mean, who designed this room? The metallic tang of fear and ozone in here is simply overpowering. He runs an unsustainable system fueled by cold rage and contempt, and now he faces the one thing he can't budget for. Aesthetic vengeance, the impeccable critique, the spicy tea of judgment. The external guards, already handled by the Audit Queen's fiscal paralysis, Such a wonderfully quiet way to ruin a career. Now the real performance begins. Sleigh bell, Skooky Drottning, and Pumpkin Queen advance, and the tension is so thick you could cut it with a dull butter knife. Skooky Drottning, Viking Jarl, analysis at a fever pitch. I have observed your composition, Brotha Lynch, and it is a miserable failure of basic design. Your undead flow necromancy is an unsightly aesthetic, a crude technology built on the easily manipulated energy of hatred. You lack sprezzatura. Your cruelty is merely a trifling gesture that lacks the dignitas of true, purposeful decay. Ooh, Skoogie. Tell him. That's the tea of pure intellectual shade. Pumpkin Queen steps forward, and I swear her energy is making the red lights flicker and stutter. Her voice shifts into a dissonant, rapid-fire assault. Pumpkin Queen, Hexrime Patois, utter chaotic disdain. You think your little rage can withstand the Slay Diva's might? You're nothing but dissonance against my perfect final light. I smell a composition's flaw in your cold, hateful plan. Your whole tragic system is on the fritz before the final curtain, man. Yes. She's reading him for filth. This is spicy tea for the soul. The apathetic apocalypse. The spiciest tea of all. Sleigh Bell silences the room with a deliberate, chilling lack of effort. She radiates sleigh flow, a cold, heavy stillness that makes the air feel suddenly thick, like plush velvet. The tension in the room is about to snap, darlings. I can taste it. Sleigh Bell, fabulously undead boss, control drawl, utterly lethal. You mistake your pain for power, darling. Your rage is not a strength. It is a corrupting toll that must be collected. I am the perfection of control. Your entire philosophy, built on an emotion so volatile and cheap, is a fiscally irresponsible failure. The only point that remains is the perfection of its cessation. And now, for the climax. Pumpkin Queen executes the final, beautiful psychological attack. Her nihilistic diva flow manifests as a cold, black aura that actively drains the red light from the room, replacing it with the cold stillness of absolute emptiness. The flow does not wound. It strips Onibratha Lynch Hung's will, targeting the emotional source of his magic. The touch of the sleigh flow is the cold stillness of profound apathy. Onibratha Lynch Hung's face, which was twisted with rage/contempt moments before, goes completely tragically blank. His eyes, fixed on Sleigh Bell, lose their malevolent spark, and his Oni sigils flicker and die. The mastermind of the lynch mob had not been defeated by brute force, but by a sudden, overwhelming, and paralyzing lack of care. His unsustainable control has collapsed into total, nihilistic apathy. Sleigh Bell, final command, control draw, absolute victory. The aesthetic of your control is a trifling gesture. Consider your reign cancelled. The UDQQ has achieved its goal. The non-fungible assets, Tempo's family, are retrieved by Samson and Dragon from the detention block, shaken and confused, but alive and compliant. The alliance is solidified, and the Unchained Melody is ready to act as the kinetic force for the Manhattan War. Oh, darling, the house lights are up, and the stage is now drenched in the perfect post-battle glow. I told you this was going to be a show, and didn't the UDQQ and Unchained Melody deliver? A truly fabulous prison break, all wrapped up before the Audit Queen could even file the final non-aggression protocol paperwork? We're ready for Act 2, the logic of extinction. Gangs of Flow York, the Undead Saga. Act 1, Rotten Apple, Chapter 12, The Aftermath and the Curtain Call. Oh, my darlings, the tea is absolutely screaming. The dust has settled over Rikers Island, and the truth is glorious, if a bit grim. Onibratha Lynch Hung is now sitting in a deep, apathetic paralysis, courtesy of the Pumpkin Queen's nihilistic diva flow. His grotesque aesthetic has been definitively cancelled. The victory and the alliance, spicy tea of success. This is not a simple win, sweeties. This is a foundation for fabulous war. Brooklyn is serving energy. The Unchained Melody got their family back. And that means the alliance is sealed not just with a contract, but with unbreakable Brooklyn loyalty. The flow of the echo chamber, that raw, defiant hip-hop flow, is now a tangible, palpable force, their energy spiking from the massive emotional release. The Unchained Melody is now actively and openly serving as the primary ally and kinetic force to counter the mayor's psychic control grid. They're practically glowing with defiance. The merged defenses. And get this spicy tea. The tactical merger is complete. The Unchained Melody's infantry, Tough street-smart fighters like Samson and Dragon have been incorporated with the UDQ's Glamour Squad, Drag Ghouls. This isn't just a physical exchange, it's a full psycho-socio-economic integration. Now, when they patrol, they operate as a complete unit. Kinetic armies to protect against physical assaults, and psychological armies to protect and attack against psychic intrusion. Their defenses are now formidable in both the physical and mental arenas. You can't stab them, and you can't insult them. The inevitable escalation, the spiciest tea of trouble. But as one curtain falls, another screams open, and the stakes, naturally, have been raised to a truly dizzying height. The Legion moves in, the Queen of Flow in Manhattan. That totalitarian antagonist prime is not one to tolerate discord. Her alliance with the Legion has moved from covert observer to active enforcer. This is the ultimate, terrifying threat. The Legion uses surgical order flow and possesses devastating anti-flow tech. They view the Queens and all rebellion as contamination. They are coming to sterilize the party. The new system's strict order. The Super Cops are officially part of the system. The Centurion Corps, Sonic Syndicate enforcers, now patrol the streets using flow dampeners and disruptor tech. Their rigid adherence to sound/rhythm makes them immune to the chaotic energies that once protected the outer boroughs. The era of easy rebellion is over. Every move the UDQQ makes will now be met with a silent, methodical counterforce. This is not a drill, darlings. The Queen of Flow has made her announcement from the command spire. The new rules are simple: absolute rhythm, absolute order, and absolute compliance. Dissent is an unacceptable variable. The UDQQ has won the battle for the mind and heart of their new ally, but now they face the organized technological might of the entire Flow flow stabilization hegemony. The tea is delicious, darling, and the crucible of glamour and defiance is officially heating up. Oh, my ghouls and gals, give it up for the cast. The house lights are coming up, the slave flow is gently receding, and that is the sound of Act 1, Rotten Apple reaching its final, fabulous, and utterly chaotic conclusion. The tea has been spilled, cleaned up by the Audit Queen, and then spilled again with more drama. But now it's time for the spiciest bit, the curtain call. Gangs of Flow York, The Undead Saga, Act 1, Rotten Apple, Final Credits, narrated by the Echo of Aegis Sage, starring our fabulous queens, Slay Bell, the lead queen, the Ideological Pillar, served us pure nihilistic apathy with a side of Calculus of Fealty. She got her purpose, darling, and it's beautiful. SKUGGIDROTTNING. The Shade Queen, the Analytical Pillar, gave us the exquisite aesthetics of vengeance and strategic clarity. That Viking Jarl is serving looks and logic. Aisha Inferno, the Slay Flow Queen, the Kinetic Pillar, the mastermind behind the calculus of choreography and active dissonance deployment. Never a dull moment when she's on the floor. The Audit Queen, the curator of consensus, the administrative pillar, ensured the entire rebellion was fiscally responsible with her consensus flow. She made tyranny look like a perfectly balanced ledger, with special guest appearances. Tempo and Helena, the Unchained Melody, our primary allies in kinetic force, provided the necessary hip-hop flow to shatter the Sonic Syndicate's tacky rhythm. The non-fungible assets have been recovered. Pumpkin Queen, our Slay Diva of trauma, delivered the final, paralyzing nihilistic diva flow that canceled the enemy's will. A stunning performance, my dear. Diggy Graves and Alara, Banshee, our environmental corruption specialists. Diggy shattered the ground with his void echo sonic, and Alara shattered the mind with her screaming wind. It was a cacophony of absolute gorgeousness. Major casualties, aesthetic and otherwise. Only Bratha Lynch hung, sent into deep, tragic apathy. His unsightly aesthetic and his rage/contempt flow are officially defeated. Cancelled, darling. Just absolutely cancelled. Crumbs, a tragic little footnote, paid the casket debt with his idol, a disposable pawn, but he served his purpose. The new threat, the rising drama, the Queen of Flow's alliance with the Legion, our totalitarian antagonist, has escalated the drama. Surgical order flow is now entering the chat. The ultimate spicy tea is being brewed in Manhattan. And that's a wrap on our first dazzling destructive act. The UDQQ is unified. The alliance is sealed, and the biggest, most organized threat is now staring them down. Are you ready, darling, for Act 2, The Logic of Extinction? Because the calculus of cohesion is about to meet the surgical